Hi everybody, welcome to week 6 of English 112. In this video I wanted to go over the annotated bibliography assignment. It's going to be due on Sunday night at 11:59. The good news is you've done a lot of work, preliminary work to lead up to this assignment, so you should have most of your work done for this, and now you just need to write all the annotations and make sure everything has a citation in APA formatting. For this video, I wanted to go over some of the sections that you should reference and also some of the key points for success to complete this assignment. So I'm going to go back to the weekly assignments, and I wanted to show you like where to find the handouts. And my computer is running a little slow today. I'm not sure why, but I'm going to go into week 6. And then I sort of copied over the annotated bibliography folder from last week. And then there's also a link here. I wanted to point out that within the link, there is a brief overview assignment sheet. And then within this folder, I have a more detailed assignment sheet. Annotated bibliographies are very technical types of writing, so I've tried to give you a lot of different angles to this so that you'll be successful and hopefully you won't have any questions. Of course, if you do, please email me, but I've tried to just think of different questions that you may have and different obstacles you may face with this assignment, but I'm hoping with last week's worksheet that you did that things are a little bit more clear and you understand the expectations for this bigger major writing assignment, which is the annotated bibliography. So we're going to start here with the annotated bibliography folder. I do have a couple of worksheets here, and I just wanted to sort of explain why they were there and how you could use them. We're not doing an actual peer review for this assignment. We will do one for the next one, which is the rhetorical analysis essay. But for this one, I didn't instill a peer review requirement. But if you visit tutors, if you have someone who reviews your papers with you, you could print out the peer review sheet and use that sort of as a guide for expectations for the assignment. You could also use it as a way to self-review, and you could print out one of your drafts of the annotated bibliography and then just maybe go through the peer review sheet and use it as a check sheet just to make sure that you haven't missed anything for the annotated bibliography. There's also a PowerPoint in here, and it sort of moves you from MLA from 111 to APA from 112, and it sort of serves as a brief guideline for some of the differences between the two formatting. Okay, so next I do have the annotated bibliography assignment here. And this is going to be a lot more detailed than the one you'll see with the actual assignment link. But this sort of goes through and explains step by step, section by section, what the expectations are for this assignment. And so I think it is significant and you should spend some time reading through it. I believe I have explained probably ad nauseum what an annotated bibliography is, but just in a nutshell, it is a technical document. It's something that you often do before a major research project. Some instructors may ask for it after the research has been done, but the main goal, the main assessment for an annotated bibliography is your reviewer or the group that you're working with will look at what you've researched and how you've assessed it, and it sort of serves as a document or a guide through your research. So for me, personally, I did a lot of annotated bibliography work with my graduate school work. I've also had to do it in committee work for academics. And you may find that you have to do it in different classes. It is a common assignment, but it's not like a typical essay. A lot of students get a little confused about what they're expected to do. This isn't an essay. It's really a documentation of your sources and your evaluation of the sources. Another thing I wanted to point out that it depends on who you have as an instructor, what they may expect in the annotations. And I believe, as I said in a previous video, an annotated bibliography is a very generic term, much like essay is a generic term for multiple paragraphs that are combined together. But an annotated bibliography just means that you're annotating your sources. You're noting your sources. So you take a source, you evaluate it, and then you provide notes on that source. So Some instructors may require 1 to 2 pages, and I've had to do that before. It just depends on the kind of depth of the assignment that you're working with or the expectations of your instructor. Other instructors may require multiple paragraphs. So the good news is I only require 1 paragraph per source. So for each source, you'll provide a citation, and then it will be followed by 1 paragraph. And I want you to stick to that requirement. I don't want you to sort of take license with that. You may have an instructor in the future that requires something different. That instructor may also require something different for the actual annotation information that they're looking for, and they should supply that to you with the assignment sheet. But I kind of stick with the basics on the annotated bibliography because for some of you it's the first time you've done this, and I like to just sort of lay a very basic, common groundwork for you so that you can be accustomed to how just most people do it. And then if you're asked to do something different, it probably shouldn't be too difficult for you to make those adjustments. So I'm not going to read this handout to you because you guys can all read, but there is a section in here, and I've done it twice through this handout because it's so important that you follow this standard. But I've sort of outlined how to summarize, how to analyze, and how to synthesize. So summary, you should always identify the type of source. You need to tell me or the reader, whoever you're writing it for, what type of source it is, maybe who wrote it if there's an author mentioned, perhaps where that author works or where they've been published. You could mention the publication where it appeared. And you want to also include the main idea. Show the reviewer what the main point of that source was. That sort of sets it up for why it was important for you to include that on the annotated bibliography, why it's important to your research. Probably the summary would be 1 to 3 sentences, and then you'll go to analysis and evaluation. And the analysis evaluation will probably be 2 to 3 sentences as well. If you fall outside of that, that's fine. They could be 4 sentences each, that's fine. But since it's just 1 paragraph, you do want to be cautious of the length of your paragraph. So with the analysis and evaluation, you're just doing that. You're evaluating what was in the source, some information, the significance of that information, and you're explaining that to the reader. Oftentimes an annotated bibliography is used with a community of researchers so that everybody doesn't have to read 100 articles. I've been on committees before where we sort of divvied up the amount of research we have to do, and I may have done 5 and another person 5, and by the time the committee gets back together, we may have 20 sources to share. If you were ever on a group project and you had to do research, this is a way that you could come back to the table with the group and share. You could annotate what the sources had so that everybody in the group didn't have to read the full article. That is sort of a method of communication in academic work. Finally, in your paragraph for this assignment, you're going to synthesize, and we talked about this last week. Synthesis is when 2 things are sort of joined together, and an evaluator would look at how those things link up, how they sync. So with the synthesis, I do want you to reference the claim, and you will be writing a claim statement for the annotated bibliography, and we'll look at a sample in a minute. But I want you to reference the claim because the claim is showing your position on the research and the position on your topic that you've chosen for the semester. And then with the synthesis, I want you to tie that research back to the claim. I'm fine if you show that the source does not fully support the claim and that it may not be used moving forward, because it's fine that you've evaluated the source, but it just may not fit perfectly with your overall research project. You can show the position of the source, so it could be the opposing viewpoint. There are 2 points to every position, and so you may have chosen an article that shows the opposition, and I think it's important that you do choose something that is from the opposite viewpoint, because when you write your proposal for this class, which will be the 3rd project of the semester, You will be proving your claim and proving your position on the topic. And a part of that proposal does involve the opposing viewpoint, where you concede something from the opposition. So you might as well go ahead and get a source now if you can. If it's not in there, it doesn't affect your grade really, but I think it's smart to have an opposing viewpoint so that when you go into the following research, you have that established and you're aware of what the opposition sees with the topic. You can also remember use one TED Talk in this, and you can use 2 interviews. So you are required to do 1 interview, and I do allow up to 2 interviews for the annotated bibliography. The rest should be purely scholarly. It should be from the scholarly databases through the JCC library. Okay, so those are the parts of the annotation. I do have a quick little sample here, and I do have it linked to the OWL, the Purdue Online Writing Lab. And hopefully, this is single space. Remember, you will double space in your paper or your annotated bibliography. Okay, there are a couple little sections down here that you can read through. And some of it talks about selecting a topic, locating internet resources. These are things you've already done, so these probably will not be groundbreaking for you at this point. Down here, I repeat the purpose of the assignment, and I repeat the summary, the analysis, and the synthesis points, because I am trying to make a point that those things have to be included in your annotation paragraphs. One thing to keep in mind is while I'm asking you to synthesize and to tie this to your claim, you cannot use first person. You have to use third person only. When you write formal academic writing, the style is not to use first person references. You is also not allowed. That would be second person. But with first person, you can't use I, me, my, us. Those are first person references, and they're considered too casual for an academic document. Okay, I have some information down here about formatting, and then there's a little blurb here about the claim statement. So you may want to read through that in the handout. This is a high stakes assignment, so the grading will be a little tougher than some of the general assignments you've done. And I have tried to give you notes on those general assignments, so you'll see if something, especially with the details. A lot of you on your interview reflection didn't give a lot of details, and I noted that when I graded it. Here's a quick little kind of framework for how it will look on the page. You'll have a title. You'll have the claim statement, and then you'll go straight into the citations and the annotations. So it'll go citation, annotation, 10 times, and it should all be double spaced because that is the standard for APA formatting. Okay, the next thing I wanted to point out is I do have some student samples in here. I did embed some of my student samples, and then you can also go over to the side menu and you can go into student samples there as well. As a department, we share our student samples, but I did include some of my personal student samples here in your folder. Again, I apologize, my computer's going a little slow, and hopefully it will rebound. Let me try this one. And I don't want that in black and white, so I'm going to try that again. There we go. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to point out is we are using APA in this class, so this has an MLA header. Make sure you're doing an APA header, and I will have an instructional video for that just to show you some of the tricks to do your cover page and your running head. So for this particular class, I had required just an MLA header, but the student sample is still good for the content. So notice here, there's a claim statement. Social media has a negative effect on business when used incorrectly. I would say that you want to look at this claim statement as something that is a working claim. It's just to show me where you are right now with your claim. It can shift slightly as you move forward to the other assignments, but your claim serves as your backbone for all of your research. And by the time you get to your proposal essay, you have to have a finalized claim. So I do realize that in the state that you'll show me in the annotated bibliography, the claim may be in a working mode, and it may change slightly as you move through the different assignments and as you do additional research. Another thing I wanted to bring up is the annotated bibliography does not mean that you don't do additional research. You're just going to show me what you have as of this week, and then I encourage you to continue to research in your topic, because you will need these things as you do more research and as you do more projects. So you're not restricted to 10 sources. That's just what's required for this assignment, but I do encourage you to do more as you go. If you're still researching at this point, I will tell you the upcoming assignment after this one is a rhetorical analysis, and you need to have an article that's persuasive, that it shows one side of an issue, because we're going to analyze how someone proved their point about one side of the issue. We'll get to that more next week, but in case you're researching and deciding what to choose for this annotated bibliography, having a persuasive article would be a great thing. So you're going to have the claim statement. This is a very basic claim statement, so I hope yours is a little bit more advanced, but this is not wrong. It just, the notes I would have given the student would have included some tips for expanding the claim statement and to making it more specific. So then we go down and we have our annotation and our citation. So here's the citation, and then the student moves straight into the annotation. One of the things I wanted to point out is margins. There is no hard and fast rule about where the margins should fall. You do have to have a hanging indent with your citation, but your paragraph margin, there's no hard rule for where that falls. I just always tell students that it should be consistent. If you ask my preference, I think it works better aligned with the first line of the citation, and then that you just let the hanging indent speak for itself. But in this case, the student actually aligned the margins with the hanging indent, and it's not wrong. The student stayed consistent, but you would get points taken off if you were not consistent with those margins, such as if one was indented and the rest were at the far right or left side of the margins. So one of the things you can do as you look through the samples is just go through and see how the students summarized, analyzed, and synthesized. So you want to see that they identify the source, that they evaluate the source, and then they show how that source ties to the claim. And again, you are welcome to show sources that may not tie directly to your claim. One of those sources may be your interview. You may have interviewed someone, and then the things they said in the interview didn't exactly match the position of your claim, and you can state that in the synthesis. It just shows that you've been able to evaluate it fully, and that you've realized that it doesn't sync up well with your actual claim. All right, so I would encourage you to look at all the student samples just to see how other students have done it. These were all A papers, but like I said, 90 and above is an A, so some of these students may have made a 90 and some may have made a 97, but these are polished documents. You may see some mistakes, but overall they did a really good job. You can also find more student samples here, and that's under the student sample tab. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I included a couple of unpolished things. And that may help you too, just to see. Yep, I have a couple unpolished works here. I sort of took a document and made it the worst it could be, so that you could see that, hey, this is not what I want to do. So you may want to look at some of those. Okay, so that's the nuts and bolts of the annotated bibliography. I wish you luck. I want you to do a great job on these. I look forward to seeing the research that you conducted and where you stand now with your research. And I hope you have a great week. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll be glad to help you along the way. Have a great week.